All right, everyone, welcome back. Let's talk about SQL operators. So first of all, let's go ahead and put our title up here at the top. And so we've already touched on some of these SQL operators, right? And so for example, we'll just do a quick recap of addition and subtraction and all the other basic arithmetic operators. So we could do 3 plus 9. This is going to be addition. And something that's interesting about SQL is you don't actually have to write the as keyword. You can just write whatever you want your alias to be right after. So just like that. But then we could also do 4 minus 1. And then we could do subtraction, just like this. And then I'll just go ahead and write all of them right now. We'll do 7 times 7. And then I'll just start doing the shorthand right here. And then we'll do 9 divided by 3. As division, right? Just like that. Cool. So those are all of our basic math operators that we can do. And so let's move on to something a little bit newer for us. And so we've talked about comparison operators. And so comparison operators are, first of all, the most basic one is going to be the equal sign, right? Just like this. And so one interesting thing that we can do is just write something like this, where we can say select 3 equals 3. And because 3 does equal 3, this is going to be, this is going to return true for us. So if we run this right here, we'll say true. But let's say 3 equals, actually let's keep that one right there. Let's say, what's another one? 3 or 4. 3 equals 4. Does 3 equal 4? Well, obviously not. So we'll go ahead and highlight this and run it. And we can see, oh, whoops, I think I actually wrote a period right there. There we go, we run that. We can see that's false. And so what's interesting right here is that this is actually, these are two numbers working together, but this is returning a Boolean. And a Boolean is essentially just true or false. It's one value or the other. And so Booleans, if you haven't heard of them, they're very, very popular in programming. They're a very basic data type just because there's only 2 of them. And they're really useful for simple things like this where we just want to figure out if something is true or if it's not true. We can also, of course, do this with different operators. So if 3 is less than, 3 is less than 4, this should return true. And so we'll go ahead and highlight this and run it. And of course that's true. But if we try something else, let's say 3 is greater than 4, I think you can guess what's going to get returned here. This is false, right? And so you've kind of seen how we can play around with this a little bit. Where this was really, really powerful is actually in the where clause, which we'll talk about in a second here. But let's talk a little bit more about some of the other operators that we can do. So you guys also saw this sign right here, the not equals. And so this is what's going to let us check if 2 variables are not equal to each other. And so if 3 equals 3 is going to return true, what if we say 3 is not equal to 3? So if we run this, we can see that's actually false because in reality 3 actually does equal 3. So if we change this to 4 right here and then go ahead and run this guy again, this is true because it is true that 3 does not equal 4, right? And so that's how that works. Additionally, I think there's a couple other ones that we talked about. We did talk about the greater than, like if we have an equal sign tacked onto here and things like that. I won't go into those just because those are pretty similar to these ones that we did right here. They're just the inclusive version of them, since whenever we have that equal sign, we can say, hey, if it's equal to this number, that's okay as well. But let's talk about our betweens as well. And so between is what allows us to select or to check if essentially a number is in a range of values. And so you're going to need 3 different numbers here. There's first the number that you're analyzing. So let's just use 10, for example. And then we would write between, and let's first try something that is true, 9 and 30. So first of all, is 10 between 9 and 30? Yes. So if we run this, guess what we're going to get back? A true. But what's a number that's not in between 9 and 30? Let's say, for example, we'll just do 100. We'll go ahead and select that, and guess what we're going to get back? A false. And so that's how the between works, at least in the select statement. But where this is really powerful is in the where statement. And so we haven't actually touched on the where statement a whole lot, but this is where we are able to filter our data. And so let's select everything from the customers table. And so we'll go ahead and type in there, let it autofill, Chinook, and customers, or customer. And so first of all, let's just run this guy right here just by itself so we can see what we're dealing with in the customer table. And so if we look inside here, we can see that, hey, we've got our first name, last name, company, address, city, state, all this information right here. And so we can see we've got this number column right here, customer ID. And so let's say, for example, we just want to grab the first 5 customer IDs using our between clause. You typically wouldn't filter by the ID, but this is just something that we're doing to practice. And so what we'll do right here is we'll say where, and then we're going to say customer ID, because we're not, right here we did a number, but here this is the number that we want to filter by, right? And then we'll write between, and what do we want to do? We want the first 5, so 1 and 5. And so we should get back these first 5 records. So we'll highlight this right here, run it, and there we go. And so let's say we want to just get 2 to 5. Pretty straightforward. We're just going to change this like that, highlight and run. And now we don't have that first record. And so it's pretty neat how that works. And of course, if we wanted to, we could just get the customer ID, whoops, first name, and then we could get the last name as well if we wanted to. Oh, whoops, I ran all of them. So let's just go ahead and look at these results then. And there we go. Now we have that filtered. But let's say, who do we want to get? Let's go ahead and we'll just highlight this one right here. We can copy that, and then we'll paste it down beneath. So let's just get the customer ID, first name and last name for these customers. And so let's see. Let's say we'll just want everyone where their first name is Mark. And so the way that we do that is we're going to use our equal to operator, just like this. We'll say first name equals Mark, like that. And so let's go ahead and highlight this, run it, and then we can see we've got a couple of different marks here. And so you need to be careful when you're using these sometimes, because for a lot of the times this isn't filtering by the unique columns. This is saying anyone whose first name is Mark, we want to grab them. And you can see like this, if we take out those quotation marks and run it, we're going to get an error. That's because it thinks it's a variable or a column or something. And so when we're just typing in a string, we want to make sure that we have that in quotation marks. And it can be single quotes or double quotes. It doesn't really matter. As long as it's just in any kind of quote, it will work just fine. And so we can see that is going to work just great. And so those are a little bit more of what we can do with the our operators. Let's do one more. So let's go ahead and just still from the customers table. And so we'll go ahead and we'll type it out again. Christian, wait for the project to pop up, and then Chinook, and customer. And so we'll go ahead and highlight this one so we only run that query. And so if you look way down here at the end, we've got a Boolean column. And so it's kind of cut off for some reason. But if we were to go and actually look at the customers table and look at the bottom, it is in North America and it's a Boolean. And so let's take a look at how that column is working. And so here are a few people that is in North America is false, And if we look at their city and their country, which is right over here, they're in Brazil and Germany. But if we look at this person right here, who is this? François Tremblay. Sorry if I totally butcher that name. I don't speak French. We can see they're in Canada, and that's true. And let's find someone else who's true. Okay, this guy is true right here. And if we look, he's also in Canada. And all of these guys are going to be true because they're all in the US. And so this is just another column that's specifying, hey, is this person inside of North America? And so if we want to see everyone that's in North America, let's write where, first of all, and is in North America. And we can use the is true, just like this. So this is a little bit different from the equal that we were running to a second ago, or that we were using a second ago. And so if we highlight and then run this guy right here, just like that, you can see we don't have any falses right here. And that's because every single one of these is true. And if we were to look at the column or the country column for each one of these, everyone's in the US or Canada. So these are all just in North America. If you wanted to, you could use this as well. This one will work. With Booleans, however, I tend to use the is, just because I think it's a little bit more straightforward. But they have the same effect. You can see we still have our 21 rows being returned. It returns all of the same ones, just as they were in the other one. And so the one final operator that we'll go over is the like operator. And so we'll just repeat everything that we did just above in the query. So we'll select all, and we'll still be in the customers table. And so we'll be like this, and then I'll autofill it this time just like that. And so we can highlight this and then run that. We want to make sure to add the semicolon right there. And so right here we have everything being returned. Let me just pull this up a little bit more. And there's our query. And so we got everything being returned, and then I'll close that too. And so if we look right here, a really good column that we could do a like operator on is, let's say for example, we only want all of the emails that are our Gmail emails. So how would we do that? We couldn't say where email equals Gmail, right? And so this is where the like is really going to shine. So we could say where email like, okay? And then we're just going to type in the quotes like we regularly do. But this is where some different syntax is going to come into play. So here are these percent signs. And so these percent signs are what say, okay, anything before this, ignore it. And anything after this, ignore it. And so if we cut this off like that and we write in Gmail, this isn't actually going to return anything, because this is saying, all right, this is the end of the word. There's nothing after this. But there is stuff before this that we'll just ignore. It doesn't matter what it is. And so same thing right here. If we do this, this is going to say this is the beginning of the word. There's nothing before it. And again, basically, if Gmail is there, it doesn't matter what's after it. If there's nothing, if it's 3,000 characters long, as long as Gmail is there, then we're totally fine. But if we do both of them, right, it could say we don't care what's before or after this keyword. All we care is that Gmail is in there somewhere. And so let's first of all, I'll show you guys what happens if we just run it like this. And so we're selecting all of them, and we'll see there's no data to display. And well, actually, let's just change this so we only get back the email. And then let's try this. Let's say, okay, the Gmail is the end of the word, right? But anything before it is fine. And so we'll see if there's any emails like that. Nope. So finally, let's add this onto there, which will say, okay, it doesn't matter what's before or after this Gmail keyword that we're looking for. As long as it's in there somewhere, we want that record. So now if we come back here, and you'll see all of these are Gmail, like here, like just like that. Pretty sweet, huh? And so that's one way that we can use it. Let's see, another one, I saw a JetBrains email in there. And so we can go ahead and highlight that. And let's see, we've only got the one. Pretty sweet, right? Let's say we want to find all of them that have Yahoo in there. There we go. And if we wanted to make this a more robust query, what we would do is kind of just add in this @ symbol right there, just so that way we're making sure that no one is just like yahoo@gmail.com or something like that. And if we wanted to, we could even say yahoo@yahoo. Just to make it even more granular and make sure that we're getting the right records back. So there we go. That's how that works. Let's do another example of this. And so just because the like operator is really useful. So we're going to go ahead, we'll select all from the customers table, and this will be our last practice for this video. It's customer. And so if we, and just kind of a quick side note, I usually like to just run this kind of query where I get all the columns back, just because I like to see everything and look at it before I run something. So let's just get back the first name. Let's also just focus on the last name as well. Then we'll do where. Let's get back everyone whose first name starts with a K. So we can see we've got Kara or Kara right here. There should be some more people, but we'll see. So where first name. So how would we do where the first name starts with a K? Let's think about this for a second. If we want the first name to start with a K, then there can't be any words or any letters before it. How do we specify that we don't want anything before it? Well, we just make sure we don't have the % here before that. But we don't just want to grab if the letter K is in there, because then this would essentially be being the same thing as that. And so we want to say, hey, anything that comes after it is fine. And that should return everyone whose first name starts with the letter K. And there we go. Let's change this to a more popular letter. Let's do like A or something. There we go. And something that is interesting to note about like, so we'll change that just to lowercase. And it says no data to display. And so case does matter. I think in some flavors of SQL, case doesn't matter when it comes to the like, but in Google BigQuery, in their SQL standard, it does matter. So keep that in mind. You can't just have the letter in there. It has to be case sensitive as well. And so that's going to be everything for SQL operators. I'll see you guys in the next video.